What's up, solutionaries? So I made this page about 9 or 10 years ago. There's nobody in here yet that I can see. I'm also new to YouTube, but I made this page 1,000 years ago. And we're going to start putting some more of the content over here that when we're having discussions about things that are not necessarily firearms related. Obviously, I'm pro Second Amendment. Obviously, that's like a given. However, I think that we have to have a more holistic approach. I think a lot of guys in the gun community, there's a lot of people that are going to discuss things that are gun related, and I think that's extremely important. What's up? I am Mick Simon. I think I'm saying that right, from West Philly. What's up? I think that everyone is doing the same gun related content, and that's fine. But I think that our issues and our solutions transcend more than just firearms related stuff. You know what I mean? So again, we're going to build this channel up a whole lot more. I will be putting more content here that has more conversation in regards to things that are outside of just gun related stuff. I'm like I've said a few times, I'm not a gun dude. I am a freedom dude, and a gun is just a tool to defend your freedoms, to defend your values and things of that nature. So we got Terry Renee in here from Pullman, Washington. Aaron Guest, what's up? Come to Atlanta. I actually was supposed to be in Atlanta. Atlanta Lights has come to Atlanta. I was supposed to be in Atlanta a few days ago. Scheduling shifted things up. I wasn't able to be down there. So soon. I actually don't like Atlanta, to be honest. Atlanta, New York, I kind of like LA, but anyway, y'all. Chicago, I love Chicago. Y'all pizza's way too expensive. All right. Subject matter of today's, this is actually will be my first live on this YouTube channel. Again, everybody subscribe, youtube.com/Maj2Ray. Social media at Maj2Ray, Majtoure. This channel will be having discussions about serious political, social, financial, health and wellness, all of those type of issues, things that I think I need to separate from Black Guns Matter. Like I said, Aaron gets ATL got gay people. Everywhere has gay people, brother, since the beginning of time. But that's what this channel will be. That's what this channel will have more of a concentration on, just to create some distinction. So let's get into it. I don't anticipate there being a ton of people on this particular channel because, whatever. This page is light, so we're going to build it. So I'll engage. I don't even know if I have super chat set up on here. I'm actually not certain. I don't know if this channel is monetized. I have no idea. Again, I set this page up 9 years ago. But again, the topic for tonight is this sister Gwen Berry. I want to go into this. I'm going to read y'all one of these articles that I saw about Gwen Berry. And just give an example of, who she is and what all of this hoopla came from. Okay. So let's share this with y'all real quick. Gwen Berry basically is a young lady that let me share the screen real quick. Window. Trying to figure this out real quick, y'all. Boom. Let's go to this one right here, y'all. Gwen Berry turns away from flag on U.S. Olympic trials. Let me scoot this up a little bit. Hammer thrower Gwen Berry says the plan of the national anthem while she was on a podium at the U.S. Olympic track and field trials was set up. Berry turned away from the flag to face the stands. Let's go back up and look at that picture. This is her right here. Okay. She got a wagon. Y'all ain't see the picture, but she got a wagon from the side. Berry turned away from the flag to face the stands while the Star Spangled Banner played during the medal ceremony on Saturday. She then draped a T-shirt bearing the words "activist athlete" over her head. Having placed third in the hammer event at the trials in Eugene, Oregon, Berry earned a spot on the U.S. team for the Tokyo Olympics. which get underway next month. Quote, I feel like it was set up. I feel like they did that on purpose, and I was pissed, to be honest, said Berry of the anthem being played while she was on the podium. I was thinking about what should I do. Eventually, I just stayed there and swayed. I put my shirt over my head, and it was real disrespectful. I guess by it was real disrespectful, she means them playing the national anthem. Continuing, I know they did that on purpose, but it'll be all right. I see what's up. USA Track and Field did not respond to CNN's request for comment, but according to Reuters, it said the anthem was played each day at the trials according to prearranged schedule. Quote, we didn't wait until the athletes were on the podium for the Hammer Throw Award, said U.S. Track and Field spokeswoman Susan Hazard. We're thrilled with the women's hammer throw team that selected themselves for the games. The anthem has been played once each evening through the trials. And she says, they said they were going to play it before we walked out, then they play it when we were out there, said Berry, according to ESPN. Quote, but I don't really want to talk about the anthem because that's not important. The anthem doesn't speak for me. It never has. On Instagram, Berry added a caption along photos of her on the podium saying, I said what I said. I meant what I said. Stop playing with me, period. And on Twitter, Berry said how comments on social media show that even after the murder of George Floyd and so many others, the commercial statements and phony sentiments regarding Black lives were just a hoax. I actually agree with her on that one. In 2019, so this ain't the first time. So let me just hop back with y'all real quick, okay? Let me hop back with y'all. This isn't the first time, okay? Now we can get back into that screen share and we can have a conversation about this. But this isn't really the first time that something's happened with young lady, and I kind of want to go into two different perspectives on this, okay? I want everybody to take a moment. I think in this super sped up social media microwave world that we are in, we don't slow down and evaluate things before we have knee-jerk reactions, okay? And one of those knee-jerk reactions that I see about to happen on both sides is this extreme, and I honestly don't know exactly where I land because I try to actually generally land somewhere in the middle. I try to land in a space where I can evaluate all, both polar opposite sides and work the way into where it's a mutually beneficial and balanced thing. So I want everybody to just for a second, take a moment and kind of relax and evaluate this. Now, this young lady, first and foremost, I want to say that we explain what happened. We know what she did over there in Oregon. And I want to hear from you all. I want to hear y'all perspective in regards to, does that move that she made, does that make her, a commie? Does that mean that she hates America? Does that mean, or is there more that mainstream media? Because that clip that we just showed you, that was from CNN. Okay. So is there more to the story? These are the questions that we got to ask. But the biggest question that I kind of want to pose here is, do you think that homegirl, hates America? Or is her freedom of expression American as apple pie? I don't know. I just have a different perspective. Now, Dan Crenshaw, let me pull this up for y'all too. Dan Crenshaw, who's the politician down from Texas, he took a very interesting perspective. Okay, let me show you all this real quick. Window. Let me show you this one real quick. Hold up, am I doing this right? I might not even be doing this right. Let's check this again real quick. Share. Dan Crenshaw had a very interesting take. And his take was in essence, let me see if I can pull this up properly, y'all. I'm gonna just read it to y'all, man, because I don't fucking understand this shit. I'll figure it out in a minute. Let me minimize this. Okay, so that's not even an option. Here we go. Dan Crenshaw. Congressman Dan Crenshaw rips Gwendolyn Berry's anthem protest. She should be removed. Gwendolyn Berry said the plan of the Star Spangled Banner following the third place finish in the hammer throw in the U.S. Olympic track and field trials on Saturday felt like a setup. Fast forward a little bit down to here. Dan Crenshaw says, we don't need any more activist athletes. Rep Crenshaw of Texas said during an appearance on Fox News, Fox and Friends Monday. She should be removed from the team. The entire point of the Olympic team is to represent the United States of America. It's the entire point. I disagree with that. I disagree with Dan Crenshaw in that regard. I disagree with this notion. That's not what somebody represents the Olympics. Okay, they represent their country, but that does not mean that they have to agree with every single portion of the nation. Now, the country. Now, I'm going to get some pushback on that. Right, the pushback that I'm going to get is, well, you signed up for something voluntarily. You know that they're going to play the anthem, and they are. When in Rome, do as the Romans, which is a fair perspective. But I don't think that it's American to worship a flag or a song, especially if you don't believe currently that overall those values are being represented. And this is the weird part of, being an American. Being American means individual liberty. And I want us to be very, very careful of this, because your individual liberties, somebody else's individual liberties, don't have to mesh with yours. As long as they aren't violating your physical body or your property, they have the right to feel and express themselves how they want, and this brings us all the way back to almost like the Kaepernick knee. Now, to me, there is both sides to this argument. One of these potential sides of this argument is, if you're signing up for Team America, right? And if you're doing that, then do that. You have to participate in the customs that come along with it. Now, as a team and repping, I can understand that. But at what point does the collective or the team's individual views lean into your, or do you have to censor your individual views for the team, and vice versa? At what point does her individual position on this, at what point does it bleed into those other team members who now, in this moment, they're going to go make it onto the Olympic team, but in this moment right now, nobody's even talking about them. Now, one, nobody's talking about women hammer throws in the first place. Like that's, I'm sorry if that sounds fucked up. And let me be clear. One of my favorite Olympians of all time is a woman. She's the most decorated shooter. She's the only woman, I think, to medal in 6 straight Olympics. So let me be clear about that. It's not a sexism thing. It's just a hammer throws and shooting. I'm interested in shooting. But if I wasn't interested in shooting, I probably wouldn't be watching shooting sports at the Olympics, right? Track and field, hockey, shot put, javelin, high jump. Those things get a lot of the attention. But this one won't get a lot of attention, but it may be getting more attention than it normally does. But at the same time, whatever attention they're used to getting, the other teammates are now not going to be able to, express themselves on their individual accolades. The focus right now, this YouTube right now, is about Gwen Berry. And should she care about that? Does she have to care because everyone else is in alignment with the national anthem? And I want to be clear. The third verse of the national anthem is some bullshit. Let's be clear about that. I mean, I think it makes sense to also talk about that. I don't think that a lot of people are kind of adding that into the mix. Let me look at, third verse of national anthem. And I think I challenge everybody in that Star Spangled Banner, that third verse. I don't think people really know what that means. It could be a little you know, a little weird. It could get a little weird to a certain extent. And I don't know if, and I have to say, I don't know, because she didn't really explain it from what I saw. She didn't really explain it very well, and necessarily like what her beef with it was. I could completely understand if it's the third verse of the Star Spangled Banner. Okay, it has some really like racist undertones. Okay, let's pull that up real quick. Let's just look at that part of the game. Okay, let's share that real quick. Let's go up. The ugly reason the Star Spangled Banner didn't become our national anthem for a century. It was September 1814. British had sacked Washington, torched the White House. Fast forward, yada yada yada. That's how the short version. Let me speed this up a bit. Soon it was set to the tune of an existing song. That's the short version of how the Star Spangled Banner came to be. The longer version of both the song and the story of the man who wrote it reveals not only why it had become controversial now in this season of racial reckoning, football, and presidential campaigning. This article's a little older, but why it was too controversial to become the national anthem for more than a century after it was written. First, a few things to know about the War of 1812. One of the main issues was the British practice of impressment, the forced conscription of American sailors to fight for the Royal Navy. Plus, the British promised refuge to any enslaved black people who escaped their enslavers, raising fears among white Americans of a large-scale revolt. The final provocation was that men who escaped their bonds of slavery were welcome to join the British Corps of Colonial Marines in exchange for land after their service. As many as 4,000 people, mostly from Virginia and Maryland, escaped. It's important to know these things because the Star Spangled Banner, originally called the Defense of Fort McHenry, has more than one verse. The second half of the third verse ends like this. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. These lyrics are a clear reference to the Colonial Marines, according to Jefferson Morley, the author of Snowstorm in August, Washington City, Francis Scott Key, The Forgotten Race Riot of 1835. They are clearly meant to scorn and threaten the African Americans who took the British up on their offer, he wrote in his recent essay for the Washington Post. Key surely knew about the Colonial Marines, and it's even possible he saw them among the contingent of British ships that sailed into the Baltimore harbor. Now, I'm not sure if Homegirl's gripe is that. As soon as I started hearing about it, my first thought was, oh, she's probably mad about, the Star Spangled Banner, the third verse. That was my first thought. But she didn't really explain the reason why. Now, her argument, again, I'm not saying that she didn't, let me not say it that way. I'm not saying that she didn't actually explain it. I haven't heard explained that way. I could absolutely understand why, if you're only playing this song, and it's still a part of the song, they just traditionally don't play the third verse. If you're still not cool with that, or if you know that third section of that, that third verse, you're going to feel some type of way, or you may feel some type of way. But she didn't, to my understanding, she didn't explain it. So I think there's some room there in that regard. Going back to Dan Crenshaw, though, that she should be removed from the team, I want to say this. You have to understand that freedom doesn't just, align with the things that you agree with. Fortunately, we live in a nation, and even outside of this nation, because I get tired of that cliche talking point. We live in a country where you have the right to even say something like that. It's like, no, everyone has the right to say it. It's a human right. The Bill of Rights just codified that human and natural right. It's not the monopoly of one country. It's just that the way that it was codified in our founding documents to this nation, you have the right of freedom of speech. So it's not limited to America. Other governments may be more pressed to press somebody if they're exercising their human and God-given and natural rights. So I want to say that part. But now bringing it back to America, we do have a nation that has that codified. So why is it that when people disagree, especially if her reasoning, and again, I do not know, especially if her reasoning is that song is offensive, especially that third verse, to African Americans. Why can't that expression, or that I don't want to participate in that, or I want to just kind of like not salute that, right? Why is that not looked upon as freedom of expression? You do not have an obligation to worship a flag. And to be perfectly honest, and I know some of y'all are going to listen to this and think I'm being anti-American, but I'll toss you a bone in a second too, as I always do, balance, right? But we have to remember that I don't care about a symbol more than I care about the substance. These songs and symbols, right? I can't even say the national anthem because, again, I just read you guys the definition of that, okay? Where that actually came from. I can't really, with that song, I can't really fault anyone that's like, nah, I'm not really rocking with that, right? The precarious position that she's in is, one, if she knows that. Two, it's a team sport in the Olympics. And she has to weigh her individual liberty or knowledge of that third stanza, if that's her position, up against her team and the position she takes as someone that's supposed to represent America in the Olympics. I believe that there's a way to represent America through your deeds and actions that are more in alignment with what the symbols are supposed to be, without kissing ass to a cloth, a flag, or a song. And I think that some of the people that are critiquing her don't really know the third verse, as well as don't know that bit of history of how that song came to be, as well as she didn't, to my understanding, explain what her beef with the song was. And then it begs the question of, does she actually have to? I mean, it helps if we know exactly why. Colin Kaepernick, when he first took the knee, he did an eloquent job of explaining exactly why he was taking the knee. He did a great job. But then after that, he stopped talking, and then his messaging got co-opted. I agreed with him and his initial breakdown. It was maybe a 3 or 4 minute answer where he explained it. He explained that, hey, I spoke to a combat vet. He actually told me it will be more respectful to take the knee as opposed to just sitting on the sidelines. This is not about disrespect for the military. This is not disrespect for our country. This is about bringing attention to an issue during that time where, Black men were being murdered in the street damn near like twice a week by law, or media was hyping it up. And he wanted to bring attention to it. And it worked. And that explanation was thorough. I don't think this sister, to my understanding, has actually given a different breakdown. I actually kind of want to look and see if she, like, what her actual perspective was after this. Okay, I found an article here that says U.S. Olympian Gwen Berry snaps back at critics over flag snub. Now let's see what this actually is saying here, because I think this is important. I think it's important to figure out exactly, what her perspective is. In order before we land somewhere. Let's see here. U.S. track star who snubbed the Stars and Stripes at the Olympic trials complained that critics are obsessed with her, even as the backlash against her continued Monday. At this point, hammer thrower Gwen Berry wrote on Twitter, "Y'all are obsessed with me." Berry, 31, has not been shy about sharing her views on racial injustice in the past, but now faces a firestorm after turning her back on the flag during the national anthem. Boom, here she goes. She says, "I never said I hated this country," she wrote in another tweet. "People try to put words in my mouth, but they can't. That's why I speak out. I love my people." But Berry's still taking heat for turning her back on the flag, on the award podium, Crenshaw again saying that we don't need any more activist athletes. And I got to be critical of Dan Crenshaw. He's been very skittish on the Second Amendment. So I got to take everything that he says with a grain of salt. Okay. He says the thing 1 minute and then does the other. So all of this love America, but you were operating in asking for more red flag laws, which are in direct contradiction to the Second Amendment. That's a contradiction. So I got to take everything he says, as most politicians, with a grain of salt. So it's one, he says, so it's one thing when these NBA players do it, he added, okay, we'll just stop watching. But the Olympic team, well, here's the thing. You can fucking stop watching that too. Just stop, just don't watch. You don't have to watch the Olympics. The world is, China's actually at this point attempting to like take over America. I saw a post, I don't know how true it is, saying that this one Chinese guy was explaining how that should be done by 2027. America won't survive. We got bigger issues, honestly, to be perfectly honest, than watching TV or the Olympics. I'm absolutely, confident in making that statement. Crenshaw's comments followed a barrage of criticisms against Berry over the weekend, including a tweet by Senator Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, I've banged with him on a lot of issues. Ted Cruz, when your state of Texas was in issues, you went to Mexico, bro. So, like, again, got to take things with a grain of salt. Yeah, I don't really see where she's saying what she's saying, like what her issue is. We see the picture of her here. We see the other sister here. This is, somebody says, this is why it's important on both a personal and global level that we keep the venues, the Olympic Village, and the podium neutral and free from any form of political, religious, or ethnic demonstrations. Now, I don't know, y'all. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know about, again, that question is being posed. That question of, oh, we just going to not let nobody say anything because people are saying things that we disagree with. Or you can just let everybody say whatever they want, like freedom goes. I'm really trying to, let me make sure that I'm doing this right, y'all, because I want to make sure that I'm represent me. Was there new comments in here? Somebody said represent me. Let's look at this one. You have a right to your views, opinions, beliefs, and feelings. You also have a right not to represent the country you despise, hate. My question is, why represent America if it doesn't represent you? So here's the statement. She, again, what she just said was, she never said that she disliked America. Where she's failing to me is explaining exactly what her beef with the national anthem is. I think I'm doing a better job because I'm presuming or assuming, based on what my understanding of the third verse of that song is, I think I'm kind of like projecting my thing onto what I think she's saying, but I don't see anywhere where she's actually saying why she's opposed to it. And then again, the question also becomes, I don't really know if she actually has to. I don't know if she has to. I think that the bigger question is, why are we not understanding that two things can be true? Those two things can be, someone has an individual liberty as an American to express themselves. They do not have to worship a sky cloth. They do not have to worship a song. And that's their freedom as an American to do so. I also think that when you do that, knowing that the general public believes in, follows, and adores these flags, even if they're not living up to the actual substance that these symbols are supposed to represent, because the general public is, worships the flag, or, loves the flag, or maybe some worship the flag and are actually trying to live up to the ideals, right? Since you know that, they have the freedom to criticize and critique. You can't make a big statement on a national stage and then start complaining that people are going to be critical of you. When you step on a stage, you are art. For the last however many years, I've been doing work across the country and I'm on television. My individual feelings aren't trumped, or don't trump somebody else's ability to critique when I express those feelings. I am product, okay? When you step on a national stage, you are product. Now, I'm not saying that product doesn't have the ability to express self. That product does, right? Or that product can accept that, hey, certain people that want to give me money or sponsorships for these things won't identify with that because they don't want the backlash, right? And that's a part of it too. You don't get to, you do get to pick and choose. You can either express yourself fully and have less sponsors, if any, or be quiet about your personal expressions and possibly have more sponsors. But either way, whatever you decide, when you are that product, when you decide to open your mouth and express yourself, you now make yourself reciprocated to the same energy. So you can express how you view or disagree. Somebody gets to express how they view and disagree. I think this is a fundamental perspective of what it means to be an American. The problem is when African Americans express themselves in that regard, it's not taken as, from my perspective, it's not taken as this person is expressing their frustration with some of the policies and legislation that has impacted America. We're not talking about Black Americans. We're not talking about all the way back to slavery. You know, we can talk about the 60s. We can talk about, you know, sentencing guidelines in America, legislation that has been targeted towards Black communities. And with that not being addressed and or fixed or healing hasn't happened, some people are still impacted or choose to be impacted by that. And they have the right to express that. That is a freedom of expression. That does not mean we hate America. This means we disagree with some of the policies that have impacted and targeted certain demographics, maybe even the demographic that we live in. My poor white homies that happen to live in rural, suburban, or urban areas are like, yo, the way that we're policed in these areas and these poorer communities isn't the same as in rich communities. When they express that, they're not even presented as you hate America. The nuance seems to be missing when it comes to African Americans, especially when they're athletes. The shut up and dribble energy is real strong with everyone. No different than LeBron has been one of the most dominant athletes of our time. We say we want these athletes to be somewhat involved, but if they're involved in a way that you don't like it, or they express themselves in a way that you don't like it, or you don't gel with, then you say that they hate America. And that's just simply not true. Two things can be, or maybe they do hate America, but none of them come out and blatantly say, hey, I hate America. We have to recognize that maybe, just maybe, we are too beholden to the symbol of America without addressing the grievances that many Americans have been or are currently impacted by. This does not mean that because racism or segregation or redlining or the prison industrial complex has and does exist, this does not mean you get to wallow there in the victimhood. But expressing that there are things that are actually wrong and your community is impacted by them should not be met with, you hate America. That's just a reality. I love where we live. I do not own an American flag. When I'm seeing people stopping for the national anthem out of respect to those people's feelings, I stop and okay, cool, maybe take my hat off and all of that. But I'm not tripping if somebody doesn't. That's their individual liberty. Individual liberties and freedoms are not beholden by your agreement or disagreement with them, nor does it mean that you don't have the right to express critique or criticisms of that person's individual liberties or expression. Freedom cuts both ways. And that's kind of where I'm landing on this one right here, on this first live on my new old YouTube channel. If anybody else has any questions, type them in now. If not, I'm going to end the live. I appreciate you all for supporting. Please subscribe. Please like, hit the thumbs up button and all that other good stuff. We appreciate you tremendously. We're going to grow this channel. And again, we're going to be discussing things that it's just my views, my perspective. We'll give you some information on finance, some information on health and wellness, some information on, you know, what's going on down the pike politically, not just Second Amendment things. And again, if you haven't, you know, subscribed to the YouTube channel, the other YouTube channel, youtube.com/Black Guns Matter, all of the Second Amendment content will be there. I appreciate you all for listening. Be safe, be solutionary.